Like, okay, once the music stops, you're on. I'm like, they're like, you're on, but the music's still going on. I'm like, am I on? Is it? Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Bubble Talk. It is Bubble Talk 26. I hope you guys are having an amazing week so far. What you guys drinking? I saw in YouTube some people drinking water, some people drinking Sprite. I'm having a bubble tea because it is Bubble Talk. It is required for me to have a bubble tea at this time. I'm having just regular milk tea, less sugar. I do like it with 0 sugar, but there's less sugar with little soft things at the bottom. I'm not sure what they are anymore because they've been in the fridge for like an hour, so they've turned into soft mush. You guys have experienced this before, right? But don't worry because this is expensive stuff. It's from Black Whale. It's too expensive. Either way, what are you guys drinking? Have a nice sip, and we're gonna let's go into some shout outs today. People over there in the YouTube and the Facebook world who came early and who are chatting up a storm. There's Kat, Rosarin, Aaron, Yanlan, Wenwen, and Yongjin. Just a good shout out to all you guys over there. And also, guys, gotta let you know something. You guys gotta tell us when these things happen, but there's a birthday. Happy birthday to Aaron over there in Japan. Yes, I would sing you a song, but I got social anxiety. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Okay. Also, let's take a look at the winners from last week, enjoying their bubble teas. Cece in the UK, we have Vera in Indonesia, and we have Hannah in Japan. All right, so they sent us, well, yeah, they're having their nice drinks. Wow, look at the UK. Her drink is huge. That is gigantic, unless Cece is tiny. So that could be another reason why it looks really big. But either way, thank you so much for enjoying your bubble teas. We're going to be giving away some more bubble tea today. So everyone, just put your thinking caps on. We're going to have a good time. Today we're going to talk about dealing with social anxiety. And I'm going to give you, I'm going to tell you guys something. After studying about social anxiety, I think I have social anxiety. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel really anxious right now and worried about everything that's going on, right? Okay, either way, firstly, so everyone take your drinks. We're going to start this talk right away. So dealing with social anxiety. So first thing I got to tell you guys is social anxiety is a real disorder, right? It's not something like it's not something you just say I have social anxiety, right? If it's really severe, which means it's like your entire lifetime, you're dealing with it all the time. It affects your life in many negative ways. You need to go to a therapist or a psychologist, okay? For what we're going to deal with today, like if you take a look at social anxiety just in the world, let's take a look at just the U.S. Those of you in the U.S., 7% of the population actually has like social anxiety, like the actual disorder. And actually, the number for women is a little bit higher than men. It's like 6% for men and 8% for women. It's still around that age. That's range. That's why 7%. And 13% of people can develop it during their lifetime. Right? So just want to tell everyone that yes, if you are severely dealing with it, this is not the place to be. Right? Don't come here if you're have severe social anxiety. You shouldn't be here. You should actually be going to a therapist or a psychologist. Now, the majority of the people, though, we're going to deal with it every once in our lives. And, there is social anxiety, and there's something else called GAD, which is general anxiety disorder. And everyone's going to deal with this every once in a while in your life. But the way to deal with it is very, very similar, and that's why I'm going to talk about social anxiety today. So, first question for everyone is, what is social anxiety? What is it? Well, the simplest way to put it is intense fear of social situations. Intense, okay? Which means that this is different than being shy. This is different than being an introvert. This is different than just having fear that comes in your mind and passes by every once in a while. This is something that is persistent in your but from the time you have it in your lifetime. It's a long thing, and it hurts your life more than anything else. So what is the intense fear that we have in social situations? The intense fear is the fear of being judged, the way people look at you, the way people you feel like you're being, like you'll think people are going to be mean to you, people are going to laugh at you, they're going to point at you, you're embarrassed, right? There's a lot of these things that you have this fear of going out to the social situations, right? So this is what social anxiety is. And if you have social anxiety, you kind of react in different ways. For instance, number one is there's complete, like, avoid going out to meet people. You might go out by yourself, but you won't go out to meet people. You won't go out in crowds. Also, you're not going to meet new people, right? So your social life kind of dies. And this is one of the major ones is, it's the way that you look at yourself and the way that you think others are thinking about you, right? And you might think, oh, they won't think I'm interesting or funny. And these are all the reactions we get from having this intense fear of going out in these social crowds, the fear of being judged. Okay, now, the reason I'm bringing this up is we have to understand the situation, like the reality of the current situation we're living in right now. And guys, this is not a normal time. So a lot more of us out there are going to have these feelings. And the reason is, it's pandemic time. It's pandemic. We've been in lockdown, some people for 3, 4, 5 months. We haven't been able to go out properly. And the interesting thing is, health experts say that young people are affected more by the lockdowns than older people. You know why? Old people don't go out. Okay, old people stay inside anyways, right? Like, do you ever see your grandmother hanging out every night at the mall, going to a 7-Eleven, hanging out at the gas station? No, only young people do that, right? So if you think about it, old people are already used to staying at home, right? But it's the young people who are so out and about, all of a sudden they're put inside their room, and this is why young people are going to be struggling more with kind of I'm not going to say mental illness, but mentally you're going to start struggling and you're going to deal with more things. You become much more sensitive because of the lockdown and the pandemic, right? So you have to realize that right now, because we're in this pandemic lockdown time, the way we feel is more sensitive, and it's going to be naturally higher for all people to start having these feelings of anxiousness, of worrying a lot, being sensitive, because you've been indoors a lot, right? So this is what I want you guys to realize is, right now, it is quite natural for all of us to go through these feelings. The problem is we just don't know how to deal with them. Right? It's hard to deal with these things. So we're going to learn some things today so we'll learn how to deal with it. All right. So let's go into the 3 actions of social anxiety. Okay. So 3 reactions. So there's 3 reactions you're going to have when you have this social anxiety. Okay. So you get into this really awkward situation. You're feeling like this anxiety, and 3 parts of you react. The first one is your body's reaction. Okay. How does your body react? For some reason, you get sweaty. For some reason, your heart rate increases, like pump, 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 pump. You have that feeling like your stomach just dropped, right? These are the types of physiological reactions your body has when you get into these anxious situations, right? So that's just the body. Second one is the reaction of your mind or your thoughts. And what's going to happen here is, all of a sudden, you become a mind reader, right? And you're terrible at it, but you become a mind reader and you start thinking, oh, they're thinking this about me. Oh, they're thinking this. Oh, they think that, oh my gosh, and they think this, and they think that. And all of a sudden you become this mind reader. Oh, terrible mind reader, by the way. Why? Because no one can read minds, right? So you start to read people's minds and you start to think that they're thinking bad things about you, right? So there's the first part of your mind. The second part of your mind is this. You start thinking negative stuff about yourself. Right? So in that social anxious situation, not only do you get sweaty, not only does your stomach feel like it dropped, right? Not only does it feel like your heartbeat's like racing, but all of a sudden you start thinking about what other people think of you, and you start thinking very negatively about yourself. The third type of reaction you're going to have it's called behavior, right? And these are things that you don't notice, but other people do. So let me give you some examples. If you're someone who's very got social anxiety, when you're talking to people, what happens is you avoid eye contact. You avoid eye contact, you kind of go scrunch yourself up in the corner and you talk to people without looking at them, and you're people will notice it. Another thing is sometimes you begin to stutter. And you may not notice it, but other people will. Like, hey, how's it going? Oh, well, yeah, okay. People notice it. It's not normal. And other things is you begin avoid hanging out with your friends, going out to lunch with them, with your team or your coworkers or whatever it is when you used to do this all the time. And this is what you call behavioral. So these 3 things actually happen at the same time. So let's give an example, right? So in my life too, like an example in life is teacher wants to talk to you after class. Oh no, right? Or your boss wants to talk to you after work. Or people in church, your pastor wants to talk to you. And, it's like, when I was in high school, sometimes I got called to the office. Actually, I got called many times, but I'm going to tell you a time when it wasn't a bad thing, even though I thought it was, right? So I got called to the principal's office, my name like 5 minutes before the bell rang. And of course, what are the students' reaction? Like, everyone with Sky, please come to the office. All the kids in the class are like, ooh. And I'm just like, oh, right? And everyone's like looking at me and like, oh my gosh. My heart's like pounding out of my chest. It felt like I just like pooped my pants because my stomach just went, boom. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Then what's my next thing I think? I think of, oh my gosh, it's because I did something wrong. I did something really bad and I did this and I did that. And what's my behavior? I don't talk to people because I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I try to avoid, I couldn't avoid it, but I slowed my steps towards the office because I don't want to go, right? And all these reactions are happening at the same time. But the interesting thing is, a lot of times, there's a lot of times that we do this too. We have these, not fights, but we have these confrontations where we think it's going to be so bad. And haven't you ever had this? You're like this. It's like, yeah, what is it? It's like, oh, I just want to tell you you're doing a good job. Is that it? It's like, yeah. Oh, thank God. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I thought you were going to, oh my goodness, I thought, and you're like so relieved, right? But the one thing you haven't realized, like, I just want to tell you one thing in your mind is, one thing you should realize is, it's usually never what you think. It usually isn't, right? But instead of understanding this, you're just like this, oh, thank God, oh my goodness, right? But in reality, you should just realize it's like, wow, it's rarely what I actually think it is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into how to deal with this. And I can't, with the time we have, I can't go into every single thing, obviously. But I'm going to give you one exercise or certain things that we need to think about or understand in a much better way. But the thing that you have to understand right now that's the most important thing is, in order to deal with these like anxieties and this like these worries and these social anxieties, the two things that are necessary that you have to keep in mind is you need time and you need effort. Like they're like the two most important things, right? Don't expect someone like, it would be nice if it was like this. Okay, what I want you to do, I want you to spin in circles 25 times. After you spin, I want you to jump up and down 15 times. I want you to eat 2 packs of M&Ms, 4 bottles of water, and then it's done. And you're like, oh, really? Really? And you just hope that there's this magic remedy. And the answer is, most times our social anxieties come or they're developing over time. It takes a long time for them to develop, right? They're building and building. And because it takes a long time, you have to understand it also takes time for you to break it down also. Okay? So time and effort are really important. So let's go into the first one. How do you deal with your body's reaction of your heartbeat, fasting, sweating, stomach feels like it dropped, right? And the answer is you need to practice calming yourself down, okay? And this is something that you need to learn to do with your own body, right? It's something that's not going to be done in one shot, right? So even for myself, like even if I get into this really crazy situation, there's like 2 big things that I can do to calm myself down, but it's not like if I do it once, it's done. I do it several times, right? And I'm going to give you a good verse that inspires me a lot is in Proverbs 24:16 that says, the righteous fall 7 times, but they rise again. Which means that when you look at this verse, the reason why it's inspiring, because in order for you to fall down, there needs to be some type of obstacle or there needs to be something hard that you couldn't do properly. But you get yourself back up and try again, and you fall over and you try again, which means that it's not like you just kind of sit there doing nothing. You're actually going through something difficult, right? There's actually an obstacle you stumble over, but you're getting back up. And for me too, the 2 things that I do recommend to control your body is, number 1 is breathing exercises, and I want everyone to try this right now. Everyone, close your eyes, and this works. This really, really works. I do it all the time. Not because I'm always anxious, but I do. Okay, sorry, too much information. All right, so everyone close your eyes, okay? Now, you're going to breathe in for 7 and breathe out for 11, okay? Ready? Breathe in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and breathe out 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And what happens here is, when you breathe out, your muscles actually begin to relax. The second exercise is really good for your body it is to gradually relax your body by doing what? Tense up your muscles and then slowly release. Tense up your muscles again and slowly release, right? And you do this as an exercise, really strong, less, and what's happening is you're beginning to progressively relax your body, right? And these are things that you really need to practice in real life. Why? Because if you get into a situation where you're really like anxious and your body's going nuts, you want to, because you've already tried it before, you've already practiced calming yourself down, in a real life situation, it'll work too because you've practiced it a lot, okay? So those are the two things to help you to deal with your body's reactions. To deal with your mind's reactions is a little bit different, right? So your mind is your thoughts. It's the way you think, right? You think people look at you like this, or you think of yourself in this way, right? So the first thing I want to tell you guys is I want you to change your social mission, okay? Change your social mission. Let's see that. Is that coming out? That title? Change your social mission. We got to get that out there. All right? So changing your social mission, what does that mean? Okay? What does it mean to change your social mission? It means that what happens when people get really anxious or have social anxiety, the problem that happens is we tend to focus on ourselves. We really do. Right? Like we're really, really focused on So what's going to happen is I'm going to show you a Bible verse that really helps me out too. It's in Philippians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. Okay? And this one says, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of the others. Now, what is this saying? It's not saying, don't think about yourself. You still have to think about yourself, right? There should never be a point where you never think about yourself, zero. Still think about yourself in the same way, just think about others a little bit more. So I'm never going to tell you guys, don't think about yourself. You need to think about yourself, right? But what it says is to put others above yourself. So I'm thinking about myself this much and think about others a little bit more. What does that mean to change your social mission? Changing your social mission isn't going out there and my mission for myself is, oh, I got to think about myself. I got to protect myself. Instead of that, change it to taking care of other people. It's a really, really good way to do it. You know, get out of the what do people think of me? What do I think of myself? But make your focus on taking care of other people as your new mission and your new job. And one way to do this really, really easily is whatever event you go to, whether it's a party or something else, serve, right? Like say, take a job, not a job, like a mission in that event. Like, hey, I'm going to be coat check so I can help people. I'm going to be one greeting people at the door. I'm going to be the one pouring the drinks. I'm going to be the one making sure that, there's so many things that we can do, and it makes it a lot easier for us. But you want to switch the mindset from protect myself into taking care of other people. And what happens here is you're still thinking about yourself, but you're just thinking about other people a little bit more, and this actually helps with your mind to start thinking and taking care of other people more. Okay? The last one is really, really important. I think it's one of my favorite ones. This is to how do you deal with behavioral reactions, right? So dealing with behavior. So I'm going to show you a study that's done. This is a real clinical trials that was done. And what happened was they took two groups of people and they put stresses on both of them. Now, the interesting thing about these two groups was what? The first group was an involuntary group that involuntary means that the stress was given to them, they had no choice. And the second group was a voluntary group. And that voluntary group was a little bit different because that voluntary group, they chose to take on that stress. Okay? So what's the difference between the two? So if you look at the involuntary group is very interesting because what kind of reactions are there? They are defensively aggressive and they have withdrawal because it was put on them. So what happens? Like defense comes up and defensive aggressiveness, right? Oh, get away, and they withdraw from the situation. And these are people that the stress was put on them. The second types of people were the voluntary groups, and it's very interesting because they had the willing approach, and so they challenged themselves, they approached it, they were adventurous. Which means what? It means that the people who voluntarily decided to take this challenge, they were the ones that had less of a hard time. The involuntary group, what happened? All their defensive mode, their systems are all firing. Your brain is, you're like, and it's really, really difficult. And energy that you could have used for later, you're using it up all right now. Your body's ready for an emergency. But the difference is, when you did it voluntarily, what happens? Not only was it less hard, but people have more self-esteem. Why? Because you have an actual reason to feel good. Haven't you ever heard someone say to you this? Come on, man, you should feel good about yourself. And the answer is, why? You can't just feel good about yourself for no reason. When people take a challenge, they look at themselves as someone who can do it. And that's why it makes them feel good. So what am I trying to tell you guys is, I'm trying to tell you guys, great verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 16, 13, it says, be in your guard, stand firm in the faith, but be courageous, be strong. Right? Courageous and strong. And you know what the reason I put this verse up, because the most amazing thing that happens with people who challenge and people who try to do it and challenge themselves, the fear doesn't go away, but the clinical studies prove that even though you still have the same amount of fear, your braveness and courage rises. That's the difference. People who willingly try, willingly go into those situations that give them a little bit of anxiety. They willingly go in, they look at it, and what happens is they begin to become more brave. The fear stays the same, but the braveness and the courage goes up. And this is why people are able to do really scary things. It's not because the fear is gone. It's because how brave and how courageous they are goes up. Which means we need to challenge ourselves constantly too. Now this doesn't mean that you just go into a group of 20,000 people when you're scared of crowds. No. Step by step, little by little, challenge yourselves. Right? Challenge yourselves a little bit at a time. Deal with it. You know, practice calming yourself down. Right? And help people out in make your mission to take care of other people, right? But you have to make it so that you're willingly going to go out and approach it. That's what we need to do. Okay? So I hope that these three things can really help you guys out, because I know that it is a very, very difficult time because of the pandemic and the lockdown. People are more anxious. People are more mentally affected by this. They're more sensitive to things much more than we were before. So I want everyone, practice a breathing. Practice to relax your muscles. Change your social mission when you're out with people. And also volunteer yourself out a little bit at a time. And these will be some steps to help you out, all right? So those of you who are joining us for the first time over there in Facebook land. No, is it Facebook land? Yeah, in Facebook land, thank you for joining us. If it's your first time, go ahead and click the like. And if you want to see more of these videos, remember, this is the 26th Bubble Talk. We have 25 more videos up on our YouTube channel, Espresso with Sky. So go ahead over there to YouTube, click the like, click the subscribe, and the bell notification, and you'll be informed whenever new videos get uploaded. And on top of that, you'll be informed when we go live. So we're going live both on the YouTube channel and on Facebook. Those of you on YouTube for the first time, thank you so much for joining. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell also. Those of you who want to support us, support this ministry, we are on Patreon, so go ahead and click that link if you want to come and support us. And this Saturday, 1 p.m., we have our small group Bible lessons. It's been amazing. We've been growing more and more people from Mongolia, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, and other places. I'm missing one. Philippines. I can't forget the Philippines, right? So for those of you who are interested in this, go ahead, fill in the sign-up form, and we'll email you the Zoom links and the reminders of when we're going to have these Bible studies. And for the free bubble tea, we will have it right before, we're going to have it during the question and answer time. So just be ready. It's going to be sometime during the question and answer, all right? I'm going to give you guys about a couple seconds to get a sip of your drinks, and we're going to start the question and answer. All right, guys, here we go. Okay, so, Korea's here too. Sorry about that. Korea's here. Okay, so let's go into the question and answer. Let's go to the first question. First question is from Malaysia in PJ, Petaling Jaya. And this is Jenny. And Jenny's question is, I think my friend has social anxiety. How do I help them? Okay, great question. So this is a great question because a lot of us might have friends that remember I told you that for the third reaction of social anxiety, it's behavioral, right? And this is not something they notice, but people will notice them. You will notice they don't make eye contact. You'll notice that they don't hang out. You'll notice that they're stuttering when they're speaking, and you'll notice these little signs that they might have some type of anxiety. You might not have like the full-blown social anxiety, but they might have something. And the great thing about this is, especially if you're if you're really, really close to them, it's good to talk to them, right? But talk to them in a private setting. So, because sometimes people might be embarrassed by it. Talk to them in a private setting. Just see how they're doing, right? Bring it up lightly because they have anxiety, right? The second thing is, if you're someone who's not very close to them, then it might be good for you to talk to someone who does know them, right? And just say, oh, I noticed these things. Do you know whether your friend has this or this, right? Or if you're comfortable enough, and you're like confident with yourself without social anxiety, then you can talk to that friend too, right? So yeah, it is a tough situation because, like I said, 93% of the population is not dealing with it. 93% doesn't have anything close to this really severe like social anxiety, but we have little bouts of it here and then. And a lot of times, even for myself, when I'm in that anxious state, one of the best things for me, I do two things. Number one is, for me, is I pray. Right? Because faith is a big part of my life. Prayer is, like I gotta pray. And the second thing I do is I do talk to people I'm very comfortable with, and I can explain to them, and I feel much better also. So sometimes you need to be the person that listens to them. And remember, if they do have some type of anxiety, the last thing they want to hear is you telling them how to fix themselves, right? Because then it feels like they're being judged. And that's one of the things they're scared of, which means that all we need to do is to become that pillow, right? Where they can say everything they need to say without feeling judged, without feeling that people are saying anything against them, okay? And that's something that we can do for others, all right, Jenny? All right, thank you for that wonderful question. Let's move all the way down to Fred in Singapore. And Fred in Singapore says, I think my friend has social anxiety. How do I help them? Okay, so one good thing that you can do for them is, it's kind of very on the same lines as Jenny, but you want to talk to them in private. Right, just kind of see how they're doing. And also, you can be someone, Fred in Singapore, that's the wrong one. Oh, sorry. It says, Fred in Singapore says, it feels a little difficult to get rid of my negative thing. Okay, it was the same question as before, it's just a different name. All right, Fred says, it feels a little difficult to get rid of my negative thinking. Is there something I can do to make myself more positive? Yes, there is. And there's something interesting about your brain, is your brain cannot differentiate who's talking even if you talk to yourself. You're like, what? What does that mean? Like, even if you start talking to yourself, your brain can't tell whether it's you or someone else. And this is why you can motivate yourself. Haven't you been to the gym before with those gym nuts? They're like, come on, man, you can do it. Come on. And like, rah, and then they start like lifting weights. They're motivating themselves. Why? Their brain can't tell the difference. Which is what I'm telling you is this. How good does it feel when people come and encourage you and they praise you and they give you a lot of help? It feels so good. But you have to understand is your brain can't tell the difference if it's you or your friends or someone you love. And this is why you have to have that good positive talk to yourself, right? You're so busy talking negative, your brain can't even tell if it's you or someone else saying negative things about you, right? What you need to do is you have to start getting into the habit. Even if you don't feel it, you gotta talk positive to yourself. I'm dead serious. Come on, Sky. You're good. Don't be scared. Don't be anxious. Don't be like this. Don't be a baby. No, I'm just kidding, right? You gotta be the one that talks to yourself positively, and you will, right? That positivity will change a lot of things, okay? Let's go over next to Hannah in Japan. All right, Hannah in Japan says, is asking, in public speaking, the beginnings are usually confidently stated, but how to deal if you feel like you're going nowhere during the middle of your, in the middle of your speech. Okay, so as someone who's been public speaking for like the last 21, 22 years, I've had that situation too when you feel, and it's really, really interesting because a lot of times, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, sometimes I don't feel it, but people do. It's really weird. Like even in public speaking, I'm speaking, I know all the points I'm gonna make, and even when I say it, it feels like I'm not like what's going on. And part of it has to do with sometimes you're thinking like no one's responding, no one cares, no one's listening to what I'm saying. So then you feel like you're losing power in your speech. No matter what, go through it, right? Go through it knowing that you're not one thing you can't do is you can't control people to laugh or control people to be inspired. Everyone has something going on in their life. Some people haven't slept. Some people have going through a bad day, right? So yeah, you're confident in the beginning, but you feel like you're going nowhere during the middle of your speech can mean one of two things. Three things. Number one is you're not adequately prepared. And if you're not prepared, the hard part is you don't know what to say next, right? And then you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? The second thing is it's just your feeling, but the speech is fine, right? You're going to have those days where you don't feel your best. But if you prepared well for your speech, go through it from the beginning to the end. Go through it. Don't cut it short, right? Don't think that, oh, they don't want to hear me, because that's just you talking to yourself. But my thing for you is run through it. Go through it. You've already done everything in your speech. Go through it. We don't want to read people's minds, because especially like kids these days, or they have bad body posture, so it looks like they're not listening, but they're listening. But they're just listening in a really weird way, right? We don't know. So we can't guess, and we can't say that, oh my gosh, no one's listening. And it's okay. All right, so I hope that helps you out, Hannah. But my big suggestion is just go through it. If you prepared for it, go straight through it, right? Let's go over to Nikita in the Philippines. Nikita in the Philippines asked, how can I get rid of this awkwardness of mine? I think some people may have misunderstood me because of it. Okay, so I'm not sure what kind of awkwardness it is, right? Because some people have a physical awkwardness. It's like, hey man, how's it going, right? And it's kind of awkward if you come in like that, right? That's physically awkward. There's some people who are socially awkward, like they don't know what to say, like, hi. And people are like, okay, what's going on? And there's different types of awkwardness, but the best way to prepare for awkwardness is be prepared. Which means this: if it's a social situation, my example would be prepare in advance things you want to say. Things you want to say. Questions you want to ask. Prepare them ahead of time. Yeah, really prepare them. And say, oh yeah, I'm going to ask them what they do, oh, who do you know here? Oh, what do you do for work? Oh, that's so cool. I'm so happy. That's so cool. And you can ask, just prepare some questions, like 3 or 4 questions where you can kind of get into the moment, right? So a lot of times it's just about preparing. If you are physically awkward, then sometimes you need to practice how you approach people, right? And these are all different things that we need to practice, which takes time and effort. Yeah, people will misunderstand, but also one thing I do think is very healthy for us is if you are open. Yeah. Be open about it. It's like, oh, sorry, sometimes I'm just really awkward. I don't know what to say at times. But sometimes I just fidget with my fingers. I'm sorry about this. Yeah, I shouldn't be doing this, right? And when you're honest with it, people understand, right? But don't try to hide it, because they'll be like, what's she doing? What's Nikita doing right now, right? Sometimes it's good just to be open and honest about it. Yeah, and I think that's also a very good, healthy thing to have that honesty, especially for these small things like this, okay? Thank you, Nikita, from the Philippines. Let's go over there to Aaron. The birthday boy in Japan. It's not social anxiety, but I worry about how to be fully myself and open about my faith in my workplace. I know it's because I worry about being accepted. What can I do to change my mindset? Okay, well, the only thing that you have to understand is faith is something that is it should be something a part of your life, which means that the only time it gets awkward is when you're kind of trying to fit it in somewhere. Like going, it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, you believe in Jesus, right? That's kind of really weird, right? It's like, hey guys, let's hold hands and pray before we eat. That's kind of weird, right? So with your faith is something that's normal, right? It's not, what, do you think it's offensive if you pray before you eat? It's okay. It just shows that I have faith. Yeah, I pray, and you start eating your food, right? You don't really have to say stuff. There's no need to say things, right? Sometimes your actions will show that you're a person of faith. You don't need to bring it up. You can say, hey, what you doing on the weekend? It's like, oh yeah, well on Saturday I'm going to be playing sports, this, and this, and then on Sunday I go to church. It's like, oh, and that's it, right? So being open about your faith doesn't mean that you're talking about it all the time. And you don't have to, right? Because that's when things could get awkward, right? Faith should be a natural thing, a natural process where eventually people ask, oh, you pray. Oh, really? You go to church? Yeah, I go to church. And that's done. Then they already know. There's no need for you to like be open like, hey man, you should come to church with me. Because that could get awkward in the workplace, right? So being open about your faith doesn't mean you're talking about it all the time. That's not being open about your faith, right? There's a time and place for everything, right? In your workplace, it's work, right? And it's not something where you're going to be like, blah, I'm going to church. No, you just got to live the life you got to live, right? You got to pray before you eat, pray before you eat, right? If you Sunday can't go, got church, then you got church. But you're not pushing it on other people, right? Because one thing I know when it comes to faith, faith is not something we push on people. Faith is something that people receive, right? Okay, thanks Aaron in Japan. Let's move over next to Janelle in the Philippines. Wow, a lot of Philippine people. I've always struggled with making eye contact while talking to other people. How can I, okay. This is a good one because this is one of those behavioral habits and it may not even be anxiety, social anxiety, right? And this is something that's very different in Asia than in America. Because in Asia, with older people, you're not supposed to look at their eyes. Like, oh, how dare you disrespect me? And then like in America, if you don't look at their eyes, you're like, how dare you disrespect me, right? So it's really, really weird and depends on culture and everything else. But in most cases, one thing you have to understand is, if your mindset changes from taking care of myself to taking care of others, there's something you need to understand about the eyes. They say that the eyes is the window to people's hearts, right? If you really want to take care of someone, if you really want to take care, and your mind switches to taking care of other people, you want to look at their eyes. Why? Because a lot of information comes from their eyes, right? A lot of times we don't know the situation, but people can tell a lot of things through their eyes. Right? And this is why it's a very, very good thing for us to switch the mindset of not, oh no, I'm nervous, but you're trying to help people now. When you're trying to help people, you're looking at, oh, how are they doing? You're paying attention to them, not yourself. Because when you pay attention to yourself, you're like, oh no, I got a pimple on the right side of my face, so I'm going to turn to my right so you can't see it. Then you're only thinking about yourself. You're only thinking about yourself in that moment, right? You have to turn to change to them. And your mind has to change to take care of those people. Which means look them in the eyes. For what reason? To get information. Because you want to help them more than anything else. And like I said, time and effort and practice. Practice. Yeah, go to the mirror. Practice. Go to your cat and practice. Go to your dog and practice. Go to your birds and practice. Practice on your mom, practice on your dad. And you know what? It might get uncomfortable, and so you could turn your eyes away for a bit, but you got to go back to it, and you have to practice it over and over and make it a challenge. Remember, don't let it come to you where people are talking, you're like, oh no, should I look? Make it a challenge. You know what? I'm going to look at every person that I meet today for at least the first 5 seconds. Make it a challenge. Right? That you will go out and try to do this. Okay? But yeah, you need to take this challenge one step at a time. 5 seconds at a time, 8 seconds at a time, 10 seconds at a time. Turn away for a little bit, get yourself comfortable, and then look at their eyes again. Okay? Thank you so much, Janelle. Great question. Really, really good question. Let's move on to Axel. Axel. I love this name. You know why? Axel, this reminds me of a movie back in the 80s called Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy, and his name was Axel Foley. This is just pop culture for people born in the 70s. Okay, so Axel in the Philippines. What if someone misunderstands you, and even if you explain it to them, they still misunderstand, then what do you do? Okay, so yes, there are going to be these situations where someone misunderstands you, and one of the reasons why they will keep misunderstanding is because they're probably still emotional about it. And when people are emotional, or they're kind of, they become irrational. And when you're irrational, you know, when someone's upset, they don't really care. They're just going to be upset the whole time. So even sometimes when you explain it, they're not even listening to you. Because think about this, when we're angry sometimes, or we're emotional, sad, or whatever it is, even if someone talks to me, I'm only looking for the bad things or something to say back at them. When you get into argument, like, you said that, and then you start going off crazy, right? So in that situation, sometimes it's better to kind of give them a break, let them cool off, and then talk back again a little bit later or the next day and say, hey, I'm really sorry about this. You know, I was thinking about this, and I hope that, you know, you can accept my apologies. I never meant it like this, but this is what it was. And then, sometimes, a lot of times it will get better, and there will be some times where it still doesn't get better. But as long as you do your part, to your best of your ability, then you should feel comfortable with yourself. Like, hey, I did my best, and I apologize multiple times. Yes, and it didn't work out yet, but hopefully, you can do enough to be comfortable with yourself, saying, you know what, I did the best I could, but it didn't work. Okay, yeah, that's a tough situation. Okay, thanks, Axel, over there in the Philippines. All right, Nora in Singapore. Nora asks, how can I start conversations? Well, start conversations, and I think this is something that it is very difficult for lots of people, and I do think preparation is going to be the biggest thing, right? So how can I start a conversation? And Nora, I'm pretty sure you're talking about people who you already know. It's not like you're meeting people for the first time, right? I'm sure it's not about new people, or you would have said new people, right? So how do you start conversations? One thing that you could do is you could look in the news, right? Have a topic to prepare yourself for a topic. Another thing is you can prepare some questions, right? See how things are going, right? You can help someone out, right? Which means that the conversation has to happen because you're helping them out, right? There's multiple things you could do to prepare for it. Prepare questions, right? Or research some kind of things that are happening in your company or in the world, and you can bring those up as conversation topics, right? And everything always starts off general, like, hey, how's it going? Everything's going okay? Yeah, hey man, did you hear about what happened yesterday? Oh, what happened? Oh man, there's some crazy thing happened just outside. Oh, I didn't see it. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. Oh, you didn't see it? Oh yeah, and then you kind of bring in the different conversations. Right? Hey, what you doing for lunch? Oh, you're gonna go out for lunch? Oh yeah, why don't you come join us? Like me and a couple of friends are gonna go out for lunch too. So it's something that you can look at and prepare yourself really well for it. Like if you have a hard time with it, prepare yourself, have a topic ready, and have questions ready too, like follow-up questions. And one thing I tell you is this: there is one topic that everyone is good at talking about, and you know what it is? Themselves. It is, right? So when you ask questions about them, then people are very, very willing to talk. And just listen carefully so you can ask up follow-up questions, right, too. So I hope that helps you out, Nora. Okay, so let's get into the quiz for the free bubble tea for this week. And the question is, which Korean movie won 4 awards at the Oscars this year? This happened right before. Korean movie, it won 4 Oscars. It sounds, or it could be close to pandemic, but a little bit different than that, maybe. Do. So what's gonna happen is, everyone write your answers down, and I have a magic number. I have a magic number in here, and with this magic number, we're gonna choose that number of the person who answered the question right, okay? And then those 2 people, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, will get that bubble tea for the week. All right, so let's get into the last question of the day from Ichigo in Korea. Ichigo in Korea asks, even when I tried my best to help people to feel better, but it wasn't effective, now I lose my confidence and can't believe in myself. What should I do? Okay, so you tried your best to help people to feel better, but it wasn't effective. Okay, so now we're looking at 2 different things right now. Okay, one is you're trying to help people, but it's not effective, right? Second one is losing your confidence and you don't believe in yourself, right? Now, the thing you have to understand, Ichigo, is those 2 things shouldn't be connected. They shouldn't be connected with each other, right? You helping people is just helping them, right? It's not really about your confidence. It's because I want to help people because I care about them. I don't help people because I'm trying to help. I'm helping people because I really care about people. So when I really care about them, I help the best I can. I didn't help. We laugh about it. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was trying to help, but it didn't really work out. And we laugh about it. Right? But self-confidence is a little bit different than going out and helping people and not working, right? Because helping other people, the one thing to understand is people are not controllable, okay? You can influence people, but you can never make people do things. You know what that means? It means that that means is when you're going to help someone, yeah, you can say a bunch of different things, right? It's like, hey, help, and you're trying to help them out. It might not work. Why? Because sometimes people are in just a really, really bad mood and we can't really change how they're doing. But we tried our best and people do appreciate it. On the flip side, if it's something about something I do, I myself am doing it, right? And I keep trying over and over and over again. It's like, oh, and they're like, oh, I feel like, oh, I'm losing, I can't believe in myself. Well, the thing you have to understand is, go back to that verse we shared today in Proverbs chapter 24, verse 16. is though the righteous fall down 7 times, they get up. Which means that you have to understand in life, everything that we do, nothing will be done in the first shot. Nothing will be done in the first shot. Sometimes it takes you 10 times. I'm sure, like, think about this. How many times, if you were to take the same attitude when you learned how to walk, would you be walking right now? Right? It's like, oh no, I tried to help people 10 times, didn't work. When you learned how to walk, you know how many times you tried? Probably 1,000 times before you started walking, right? That's the mentality we need. It's not about, oh, I have to do it right away, and I have to be so good helping people right away. No, even helping people takes practice. It does. And we need to put the effort and time in to help people in this way, okay? So, don't get down. Right? The people that fall 7 times get up 7 times, and they get up and do it again and again and again. People can't really control them. The only person you can really control is yourself. And you got to know that even with yourself, there's times you're not going to be doing well. And you got to pick yourself back up. You make a mistake, pick yourself back up every time. Okay? Let's go over to the last question of the day. This is Belle. Belle Kaur, all the way over there in Kuala Lumpur. And she's asking, I have this anxiety when I'm around toxic people as they kind of enjoy saying bad things about people. Oh my goodness, I know what you're talking about. So you just keep quiet and pretend you didn't know, but I keep getting that vibe from the same person. And you couldn't avoid meeting them since we shared the same workplace, right? Okay, so there's these toxic people, and this is not so much an anxiety. This is just terrible people, right? Or people who have these terrible habits. And this is not a good thing. And this is don't think that you have social anxiety because of this, because people should be avoiding people like that. Already here, you're like, wow, how do you say so many bad things about people like this, right? And this is something where don't worry about it. Don't think of it as a social anxiety, because it's not social anxiety. This is something that is natural because we tend to avoid people who are kind of not very good in character. And this is something where your body's naturally like, oh, I don't want to be around this person. Why? Because it's so different from us. In this situation, because you can't avoid them and they might like you, right? It's best that whenever they say nasty things about people, in the beginning, you should try to defend people. To like, oh, no, like not like saying, how dare you say that? They'll say, oh, this person like this. It's like, well, I didn't notice that. This person's really good to me. Oh, really? That person? Oh, no, this person's really good to me. So, sometimes I would just say the opposite and say, no, this person's great. Oh, never treated me bad. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, yeah, for me, they're fine. And if they become very, very toxic, it's probably better you avoid them more. Although you cannot avoid them altogether, but it's better to avoid them even more. Yeah. And if it's really bad, it's better for you to talk to them rather than trying to deal with this every single time. Like, oh my gosh, this person, it's not healthy for you. It's actually very stressing on your body, and it's actually not good for your immune system. If you're really stressed by this toxic person all the time, you are actually causing yourself to get sick more often. So if anything else, you either try to avoid them, which is, one way you can do it, but then since you're working with them, you can defend people, and even more than that, you can kind of be open and honest with them. It's like, hey, you know what? I really like these people, so I don't really like it when you talk bad about these people, right? And usually with these people too, if you say that to them, they're probably going to start avoiding you too. It's like, what? How dare they say that to me? And usually a lot of times people in this situation do need a lot of help in other ways, right? They're probably struggling with something else in their life. So if you really, really want to help them, it's good to kind of sit down and talk to them and see what's going on in their life. Because sometimes people are struggling with other things, and the only way they can react is by treating other people bad, right? So it's something, if you really want to help them and resolve it, it's good to talk to them a little bit more deeply. Just see what's going on in their life. Just sit down and have a good, serious talk with them and see, hey, is everything going okay? I've noticed that you're really negative all the time. Yeah. And then if they can open up, then maybe they just need a friend to talk to too. Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that you can do. But since they're working with you, it might be better to have a really good talk with them, just to see what's going on in their life. Not to fix them, just find out what's going on in their life. Yeah, see how they're doing, okay? Belle, thank you for that good question, because that is something that a lot of people do struggle with, like dealing with toxic people. Yeah, it's so stressing, and that's why we have to deal with it in one way or another, okay? Let's go to the last question for today. Is Rosarin in the Philippines? Last question. I'm becoming this advanced mind reader in a way that I'm so anxious that these people will judge me on what I do in every second, and I kind of panic on what they think in my every single movement and speech because it will affect how my parents and my life of faith raise me. How can I help myself to stay calm? Yeah. So, definitely the first thing is you want to, when it comes to your mind and your thoughts, right? Because we're so focused on ourselves, because even when you're mind reading other people, you're still focused on yourself. You're thinking about what they think of you, even though they've never even said it. They haven't even said it, but you're focused on yourself, actually. And that's why you need to start reaching outwards and start taking care of other people, right? Start taking care of people. Make it a mission of yours to take care of other people, help them out, see how they're doing, right? Help others. And this is the first thing that I do suggest for you. Because we're so focused on ourselves, it's kind of like, it's not arrogance or anything like that, but you're so self-centered at that moment. You're self-absorbed, right? You're thinking only about yourself and what all these people think of you. And the best way is, you're not going to change yourself. You're not going to stop thinking about yourself, but you have to start thinking about other people more than yourself, right? And the best advice to start off first is start helping people out. Like, really help them out. When you help people, it's hard to say something bad about someone that helps you. It's really hard. Help people out, right? And a lot of times you're going to realize that what you think is just what you think. So put positive thoughts into your mind, keep talking positive to yourself, and start helping people more than anything else. Try it out. Practice it a little bit. It's hard. Practice it. There is nothing that is going to come free and easy. Time and effort. All right, so that is the end today. And today, thank you so much, everyone, for asking these questions. Really grateful and thankful for all of you coming out here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the winner. Who is the winner and what's the number? What number is it today? It is 6. The person who answered the sixth right answer. On Facebook, it's Trina Yabut. Wow, where are you from? Yabut, I don't know. Yeah. Huh? From the Philippines. Man, the Philippines are taking over. And on YouTube, Natasha from, where's Natasha from? I think Natasha is from somewhere. Okay, well, you must be from somewhere. So Natasha and, who's the other person? Trina. Trina and Natasha, go ahead and email us and we'll send you your free drink. But don't forget to take a picture of yourself with the bubble tea. All right, that's the only condition we're going to send it on. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Hey, this is going to be a round of applause. Good job to both Trina and Natasha. All right, so everyone, thank you so much for joining once again. Everyone have a wonderful and amazing weekend. And for those of you on Saturday, we'll see you for that Bible study, group Bible study at 1 p.m. Everyone have a wonderful day and we'll see you guys again. Bye-bye. See you guys later.